Hi, my name is Ryan Guy, and I currently serve as one of the co-chairs of the Modesto Junior College Civic Engagement Project. This past Monday night, in collaboration with the League of Women Voters of Stanislaus County, we hosted a candidates forum for the Yosemite Community College District Board of Trustees. We hope this forum will be informative to you and will help you make your choice about who you wish to vote for in the upcoming election. Please remember that time is running out to register to vote. It's the best practice to get that registration in by October 19th, and remember that you do need to mail your ballot in during this election. For more information about how to register to vote and how to send your ballot in this election, we encourage you to check out the California Secretary of State website, which can be found at registertovote.ca.gov. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy the forum.
Okay, welcome to the Yosemite Community College District Trustees Forum this evening. This evening, we will have 6 of the 8 candidates with us. 2 of the candidates had last-minute emergencies, which had to be addressed very late today, and we're very sorry that those candidates, and both of them are from Area 7, will not be with us. That is Mrs. Ford and Mr. Aguilar. With that, a little bit on the rules of the road. We are going to ask each candidate to make an opening statement of 1 minute. After the opening statements are completed, we will rotate questions throughout the candidates to make sure every candidate isn't in one particular position through all the questioning. All questions should be answered in 1 minute. We do have 2 people who are timekeepers, very, very experienced, and they will be raising a sign giving you a 15-second warning of the stop sign. Bless you, Mel. So we do ask that once you see the stop sign that you would wrap up your thought and conclude your statement. So we'll get started, and we're actually doing it in district reverse order. I simply printed off the registrar's list of candidates, and we're going from the bottom to the top. We'll start out with Mrs. Beard. Opening remarks or comments. And please unmute. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lindsay Bird. I'm a candidate for Area 6. I was born and raised in Modesto and have spent the last 18 years both living and teaching in Area 6. My expertise is empowering at-promise students to defy their demographics. I worked with immigrant, refugee, and asylum-seeking youth and found that what they needed to succeed is very common with many of our students in this region. I want to leverage the experience I have and the community connections to increase the completion rate at MJC, and also to make a more inclusive and proactive culture. Thank you for inviting me to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mrs. Beggs?
Hi, thank you. And thank you to those hosting this event and to everyone watching. It's been a privilege to serve as your Area 6 trustee for the past 4 years. For those who don't know me, I grew up here in Modesto, a product of Sherwood, Somerset Bayer, MJC, and then Clemson University, where I earned a BA and an MA in English. Along the way, I shared an office with a fellow English grad student. We've shared a lot since then, 38 years of marriage, 3 sons, 1 granddaughter. Since 1991, my husband has shared the finer points of composition and literature with thousands of MJC students. I have fond memories of my own time here at MJC as a student and later as a part-time English instructor. It was that love that led me to run for the board in 2016 when I saw administrators stifling free speech and controlling trustees by controlling the info available to them. I firmly believe then, as I do now, that trustees make better decisions when we listen to all stakeholders. With your vote, I will keep building on our achievements of the past 4 years, including greater openness and transparency, implementing more fiscal efficiencies, and ensuring that our students have the tools and support they need to thrive during difficult times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Biggs. Mr. Rubio.
Hello, thank you for inviting me to this forum. My name is Rosalio Rubio, and I am running for YCCD Board of Trustees for Area 5. As the first in my family to attend college and become a physician, I understand the importance of education, as well as the barriers that stand between students and their educational goals. To break down some of these barriers, I have helped organize a one-day student health conference geared towards high school students to encourage them to pursue careers in medicine. This conference is now in its 5th year, and many of those students who attended are now students in our community colleges. I am running for the Board of Trustees because I want to ensure that our community colleges are affording these and any other student every opportunity to succeed in their chosen field. If elected, I will work with the other board members to improve our community college graduation rates, time to graduation, as well as to provide students with clear pathways to a career. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers.
So my name is Brian Rogers. I'm running for Area 3. My relationship with Yosemite Community College District actually began in 1972 when my father took a teaching position at Columbia College, and I had the luxury of growing up on that campus as a youngster. And following my high school, attended MJC and graduated from Columbia College before going on to advanced studies and eventually coming back to our community to serve as an educator. I have taught in Stanislaus County for over 25 years at various levels. I am currently in the classroom right now teaching through the pandemic and working with students as they prepare to go on to college. One of the things that's really important to me is how the students are doing emotionally and mentally here. And I feel like being in the classroom right now gives me a great deal of insight as to how to guide the district forward through this pandemic and beyond.
Thank you. Mr. Richards. Audio, please.
George, nice to see you again. It's been a while. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having tonight's debate, the other candidates for participating, and also the public for listening in. I've spent the last 30 years of my life in higher education as an adjunct professor, an administrator, student, been very involved in the community as the former chairperson of the Turlock Convention Visitors Bureau. I've been board member of the United Way. I have degrees from West Virginia University, including my doctorate. And I think this being a trustee at the YCCD this is a really good time in my life to do this. It's the one job I haven't done in higher education. And when incumbent trustee Abe Rojas decided not to run, he recruited me to do this, and I'm very excited about it. And my goal is, if I get elected, is to work with the chancellor and the president and trustees and students and public to continue making the community colleges the best 2-year experience that you could possibly have. I think community colleges are very important because it's not just for people who want to go on to get a 4-year degree. It's also to get a degree in nursing and those types of things. And I'm very excited about this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll start on our series of questions. And again, Mr. Richards, the first question. And again, as I said, please, if you don't understand the question or you would like it repeated, please feel free to ask me to do that.
George, did we forget Mr. Garrett?
Did I forget Mr. Garrett? I did, and I apologize. I don't know how I did that. I really apologize. Mr. Garrett.
That's okay. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the MJC Civic Engagement Project for putting this together. These are difficult times, and you guys were able to pull this off, so thank you very much. Again, my name is Darren Garrett. I'm a lifelong resident of Modesto, and I'm a product of the Modesto Junior College system. It provides an awesome opportunity for someone like me, being the grandchild of immigrants coming to this country from different parts of the globe. And I was able to go on and have a fabulous career serving our community in law enforcement and serving our foster youth and sitting on the Juvenile Justice Commission. Modesto Junior College is a diverse institution. We serve people from, like I said, all over the globe, and our focus is on students, and we really need to keep an eye on the ball. My biggest thing was when I got elected was relationships. I'm proud of the relationships that I've got with the faculty, the classified professionals, with our students. And that's a big focus of mine, is relationships. We're getting back our career and technical education courses. We've gone through accreditation, And I'm just grateful for all the things that we've done for our students. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, and my apologies again. As I said, the first question will go to Mr. Richards, and that question is two-part. What do you see as the greatest opportunity and the greatest challenge facing the Yosemite Community Colleges, and how would you address or handle each?
Well, the biggest challenge is what is the budget and also dealing with this COVID situation. I think what's so unique about this opportunity at Modesto Junior College is that it just, education is what will make our future better. And it gives people an opportunity to get a career, go to college, and really become a better citizen. Now, I think one of the unique things I bring to the table is I have a vast experience in fundraising. And I think the Modesto Junior College could probably do a better job of getting some external resources to improve the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers?
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Certainly. What do you see as the greatest opportunity and the greatest challenge facing the Yosemite Community Colleges? How would you handle each?
Well, one of the greatest opportunities is the fact that it's a very inexpensive way to get started in your college career. In my classes with my juniors and seniors, we do talk about the fact that if you're not sure where to go, want to explore something, that attending the junior colleges or community colleges for 2 years for free is a great opportunity for you. For me, quite frankly, I see the greatest challenge every single day in my classroom, and that is dealing with this COVID situation and dealing with how it's changed the way students are learning and how they're adapting to education. So for me, that challenge is going to require some real proactive action on the part of the board, as well as communication with the staff and administration to really see this. We've never been through this before. And so I think it's very important that we be aware of how the students are learning, and so that we can adapt and be better prepared to assist them through that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garrett?
Well, I think our greatest opportunity is what we're seeing right now. It's our faculty, it's our classified professionals, and it's our students. We've never been through this before, as people have stated. We all came together. We went to an online format, and we've done a great job. Our students, I mean, that is our eye on the ball. The board recognizes that. These are first-time students, first time for their family, first time in a generation seeking higher education as an opportunity. Our weakness has been pointed out is the budget. The state keeps moving the ball on us as far as the new funding formula. That's one of the reasons why I brought forward and re-implemented the board finance committee. With my background in finance, sitting on the retirement board and doing government budgets in my career, we've brought transparency. We've looked at efficiencies, working with the chancellor and his cabinet. So I still see that as an opportunity, but that is a challenge going forward. But our focus needs to be on our students at all times. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rubio?
So obviously, I think one of the biggest opportunities for the community college district is the fact that it is very affordable. I think a lot of people understand the importance of higher education, and being so affordable, we can definitely recruit a lot more students to our community college system. Also, a lot of people know that the Modesto area is very affordable, at least compared to the East Bay and the Bay Area. And so I think, have an opportunity to keep a lot of those students locally to improve our economic situation here. Obviously, the biggest challenge right now is COVID-19, with students having to not only be students, but also be parents, be caregivers, and, all the challenges, dealing with the pandemic is one of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Beggs?
Thank you. we have a lot of challenges. It's hard to pick a greatest one. We've got the erratic state funding. We've got the shifts in funding formula. Those are hard to deal with. We were proactive. We tried to have what we did was we had a hiring freeze to help because we saw it coming. But I think COVID has also given us some opportunities. Like we've discovered that there's a lot of things we can do online. It's not ideal. Obviously, a lot of us don't like it, but we can save a lot of money in the future too if the budget tanks, as I think a lot of us suspect it will. We could do conferences online now instead of spending a lot of money to go to hotels. I think we could do professional development that way. And then I think our other challenge is helping our students succeed. And I think we're not good at evaluating how things work. We need to go back and check everything we try and keep what works and get rid of the other stuff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Bird.
I believe our greatest opportunity is to get to know the students and their needs in a way that increases our completion rate. Not only is having a well-educated community beneficial for everyone living here in Modesto and Stanislaus County, but also we are incentivized through the new funding formula to get our students through. We can do that with cultural competency and data-driven equity and a real heart for empathy as to what our students need in order to not only enroll, but to finish their certificate or training program or transfer degree. I think our biggest challenge is sometimes the traditional mindset. We tend to ask ourselves, are students college ready? And as a community college where everyone is accepted regardless of grades or even if they have a high school diploma or not, I think we need to change the way we think from our students college ready to is our community college ready to support our students as they are. And sometimes the mindset shift is one of the more challenging things to do, but if we can do that and create a culture of inclusion, I believe that the increased completion rate will come along with it.
Thank you very much. The second question will start with Mr. Rubio. And the question again is also two-part. Number one, what do you see the role of the trustee being? And number two, what actions should a trustee take to be successful?
All right, so as far as the role of the trustee, I believe obviously it is to work with, with everybody in ensuring that the students are having the opportunities that they need in order to be able to graduate. I know that, we have to deal a lot with budgets and other. I think we put the students first. Those decisions will become easier to make. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question? What actions?
What actions would you take, or what action should a trustee take to be successful?
Actions that they should take is very easily is just communicate with everybody. Talking to the students, talking to the faculty, talking to the certified professionals, and having everybody's input in order to come to the appropriate decisions. Again, to the benefit of the students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garrett.
Well, the role is simple. One of the reasons why I ran for the board 4 years ago is because we had a board at the time that was just a rubber stamp for the cabinet. And that's not how a trustee should operate. A trustee needs to engage themselves in all facets of the institution with the eye on the ball at all the times being, what can you do for the students? The students are number one. Community, relationships are very important to me. So that's really the role of a trustee. You can look at the budget, that's important. You can look at policies and procedures, that's important. We passed a due process policy for fairness. But I really think that you've got to be looking at everything in a holistic and global approach. Success, easy. Again, back to relationships. There's 7 members on that board. You've got to work together. You've got to get to know your fellow trustees, what's important to them. How can you come together cohesively and get the job done? You can't be a rogue agent and just have your own ideas and be a standalone. You're not going to get anything done. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers.
So in my years of experience of serving at state level boards for California Teachers Association, this is often a topic of how do you work together and how do you sort things out. So I feel, again, the trustee the responsibility is to work with the administration, work with the faculty, work with the classified, as well as the other board members to kind of sort these things out and try to find a path forward together that's unifying. For me, I've already feel like I have started to do what I would need to continue to do to be successful, and that is talk to the chancellor, talk to faculty, talk to students. That's what I've been spending quite a bit of time on. And I think between those two things, building that relationship with the other board members, but also listening is really, really important. And then continuing to kind of keep the students have always been number one to me. That is my reputation of 25 years. Feel free to check it. And I have no problem with continuing keeping them first.
Thank you. Mr. Richards.
Well, first, I think it's very important that a trustee doesn't micromanage. I think a job of a trustee is to work with the chancellor and to try to advance the mission of the district. I think you need to attend meetings, you need to be aware of what's going on, and I think you need to provide input. I also think you need to make your district very much aware of what's going on. And I think one of the unique things about me is that I've had experience in managing a budget and making personnel decisions, and I've taught classes and I've dealt with students. And I think I can be a really good resource for the chancellor and the board as they make decisions. But I think the real key is to listen a lot and to not micromanage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Bird?
Well, I have actually spent a lot of time going over the 8 bullet points for the role of the trustee from the California Community College League. And the one that really stood out to me that I think would be the heart of me as a trustee is promoting the public good over personal interests, making sure that all decisions can be justified with quantitative and qualitative data, and building consensus amongst the board that there is community need in all decisions. I think that that's best done with a proactive mindset rather than reactive to community need, which is achieved through community relationships, not just with community groups, but also since community college is an extension of the K-12 system. That's something that I can bring to the table in terms of my relationships with teachers in the trenches of K-12 who can give insight into the needs of the students as they matriculate into the community college level. And I just feel that it's best when every stakeholder, whether they're a stakeholder who happens to work or attend the campus or even in the community, feels that their input is valued and heard. Whether it is, just out of empathy or into policy, we need to create a community college culture where everybody feels like they have a voice.
Thank you, Mrs. Beggs.
Oops. I can't tell if I'm muted or not. Am I? No.
No,
Okay.
you're loud.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's okay. It's been gratifying to hear everybody say how important it is to listen, because that's not the culture at the CCLC. They actually frown on people talking on lateral communication. When we were first trained, they tried to get us to only talk to the chancellor and to kind of get permission, like you weren't even supposed to walk on campus without permission. And so I think it's really important that we have that lateral communication, that we welcome the opinions of others. I think that's how we make intelligent decisions. And as Darren said, we have to work collegially with our fellow trustees. And we all bring different gifts to the table. We all have things that we're good at, things that we're not so good at, and we share those with each other. We build relationships with people, and we need that, because when our tough times hit, as I said before, we have to have a reservoir of trust to draw on because, thank you. I'll stop.
Okay, thank you very much. You can't stop very long because you're going to be first on the next question.
Here.
The question is, how will you assure public transparency at both the district and by the board?
Okay, we've done that. It takes a lot of polite persistence. What we had to do is we wanted information, for instance, about the Farilli contracts, which I don't know if you read about them in the paper, but they were contracts that we entered into without bid, and we were paying over $35,000 a month for basically a rented chancellor, vice chancellor of IT. And what we did is we asked behind the scenes, as you're supposed to do, and then we started asking publicly and creating a public record of asking for this. We asked for travel reports. We were supposed to get them since 2004. And I think just making it clear that we're going to persist in asking for information is part of our duty to the public. And we assure it by following up on things. We get hit with packets like this every month. It's easy to forget. So we have to continually ask that information be made public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Byrd?
In terms of public transparency, the thing that comes top of mind to me is fiscal transparency. Obviously, the current board should be complimented on their fiscal responsibility. And I know that there is a transition right now between funding formulas, but I know I tried to review the budget and it was complicated for me. And I used to be in banking and took classes in economics, so I can imagine the average constituent or even student might want to know how those numbers represent priorities, because so often lip service is paid to buzzwords like equity, but you need to see in the budget that those priorities are being made. So developing a way where fiscal transparency is digestible to the person that doesn't necessarily have a degree in economics, I think would be a great olive branch to the community to make sure that the recommendations that they have or are suggesting, if we are saying that we are going to make it a priority, that they can see it in black and white, or maybe even in a colorful chart. I know that sometimes numbers are difficult to read, but when it's illustrated in a chart, I know personally it helps me understand. So fiscal transparency, I think, would be a great priority as we enter into navigating these post-COVID times.
Thank you. Mr. Richards?
Well, transparency is an absolute essential part of any public entity. And the district belongs to the public. It's funded by the public. And I've had the good fortune to meet with the chancellor and some board members. I've spoken with labor groups. I've spoken to students. I've spoken to faculty. And there's a clear vision for transparency. And I think that every decision that's made needs to be in the public. There needs to be no secrets. And I think, as others have said, fiscal transparency is very important, because when you get into labor negotiations, people need to know what the truth is and how much you can pay people and how you're using funds. So I just don't think any public entity can function without complete transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers?
When I received the packet of the budget, that was one of the first things I did. I read through all of it myself to try to see what I could understand. And then I made an appointment with the chancellor. I've actually spoken with him several times to go through and ask him, what does this category mean? What is this about? How does this work? And I found him very amenable to those kind of conversations, as well as talking to the CSEA folks and talking to the YFA folks and talking to kind of some of the other various departments. In order to understand what kind of decisions we need to make and how to be transparent, I feel like it's important to know the needs and also some of the history. That is the way that when we are with CTA, when we deal with our $200 million budget plus sometimes, that we have to really go down and break it down. And I feel like that whole transparency is a process. It involves building trust within the various groups that you have to work on that. And I feel really confident and supportive of how much we need to do that, especially in public education.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett?
Well, transparency to me is something that starts at the top. I mean, the Board of Trustees, when we came on, we recognized 4 years ago, I mean, I started attending meetings back in 2015. And I noticed right away that a lot of business, public's business, was being done behind closed doors. And so my first job was to make sure that attitude, that process stopped, that we discussed everything, because it's all about participation and it's all about trust. Yes, the budgets are very difficult. I would compliment those people running. If you looked at the budget, hats off to you. I've even, sitting on the retirement board, I've looked at actuarial reports, and I can tell you our budget is sometimes more complicated than a retirement actuarial report. Yes, budget is very important, but transparency is everything that we do. We have to make sure that we're transparent and to be inclusive. We gave the student trustee more times and more opportunities to speak out, to represent that group, which is very important, students. When we were going through our faculty things, we made sure that faculty had plenty of opportunities to speak and allow transparency. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Rubio?
So how will I assure public transparency? So I think, as everybody has been mentioning, I think it is one of the, first things to do is to ask questions. When we as Board of Trustees don't understand something, we need to ask questions and we need to request those records. And, this is where talking to each other so that we can all come to the same understanding. And then if needed, if we feel that this is something that, the public needs to be aware of, that's what the meetings are for, so that it's, put down in the public record what we as, the Board of Trustees, the community college system is doing for the students. And so, like I said, it is just, asking questions, understanding, and letting the public know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to question number 4. This will start with Mrs. Bird. And this is really something that each of you has already talked about a little bit in your responses. So let me read it. What should be the district's top priority? Is the district successfully addressing these priorities? If not, how should the district address those priorities? So what should be the top priorities? Are they being successfully addressed? And if not, how should they be addressed? And we're going to start out with Mrs.
So
Bird,
I
please.
believe the top priority should be to increase the completion rate, like I had mentioned before. I definitely believe that the YCCD is already on the path to do that. I know that the implementation of guided pathways is the backbone of redesigning course offerings to meet equity-driven community need. I've had the great fortune of visiting, for example, the Ag department, doing wonderful work, encouraging students not only in the classroom but beyond with hands-on support and mindfulness of the needs they have outside the classroom. I think they're a great model going forward. I was able to meet with the collaborative via Zoom and see the work that those groups are already doing to support students of color and formerly incarcerated students. So I feel like what we need to do is to continue to celebrate the programs that are already proven successful to close the gap in terms of completion, and then create best practices that we can learn from them and implement those in other ways. I believe that if we do this, and not only just with the faculty in mind, but also with the staff. For example, I learned from some CSEA employees.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to ask you to wrap up, please.
Oh, sure. No, that's fine.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Beggs.
Well, I mean, obviously, our top priority is helping our students achieve their goals. And these are complicated issues. And I've been writing about the problems of helping our students do that for years, because we have a huge chunk of students coming in who are not ready to do college level work. And then the state is pressuring us to get them through. And many of those students have families and they work full time and they're taking care of children. And so, as I said, we need to evaluate what works. And we're not good at polling our students. Like, what do you need? What do you think you need to succeed? I've seen a lot of creativity from our faculty. For instance, in math, which was a very much a gatekeeper course, they came up with modules that students could go through on their own to help them get into those classes sooner and get that faster throughput. But that's our goal, is to help them get out there and have the lives that they're destined to have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rubio, please.
Well, I would have to agree with the previous speakers about the top priority being, the graduation rate, completion rate. I mean, obviously, these students are entering our college system because they have a goal in mind, and our job should be to make sure that they achieve that goal. The district is already addressing, that in, many ways, the guided pathways being one of them. But, obviously there's still work to be done. And so there's, we need to come up with new ways of addressing this. One of the things I was, considering is we need to have some sort of mentorship program where the students that have been successful in completing and graduating can come back and, speak to the students that are just entering. Basically, transfer students helping, first year students, faculty helping, transfer students, and so on. So just, some sort of mentorship program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garrett?
Well, I hate to sound repetitive, but yes, it's our students reaching their goals. It's not just graduation rates. It's completing their certificated programs as well. If their goal is a career and technical education path, we need to make sure they have all the tools and resources they need to do that. As was said, we've got guided pathways. One of the things I ran on 4 years ago was our transportation challenge youth that live way out from MJC in the West County area. How do they get to our campus if they don't have a vehicle? So we've actually got a program through state and federal dollars for bus passes. They can get bus passes. They can ride the bus as much as they want. They can take it to go get clothing, food, whatever they need to support themselves and their families. So we've done that. We've got faculty working with students. We've got tutorship programs. We've got everything, every tool that we can to make these students successful. Whether their goal is to go to a four-year institution or to get a job right away out in the job area here where they live and support their families. So yes, students first. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers?
So we all have a very similar theme, and I always think about this, that the students aren't in my classroom for me, I'm there for them. The students aren't at the community college for me, we are there for them. And as a trustee, I think that raises it way up there, even higher, that we need to keep that in mind. So for that piece, there's the comment about that I've heard several times about they're not prepared for college. And I think one of the priorities that's currently before the board, that building, deepening the K-12 partnerships is a key area, that there's more communication. Just in talking to staff around the county and various high schools and several superintendents that I've interviewed, plus at the district, there at the community college level, there just seems to be an area where we could do a better job working together to put the kids forward than is currently happening within the community college. And I definitely think that that would be a great way to improve their success rate and completion rate.
Thank you. Mr. Richards?
Well, I think the top priority for the district is to keep education affordable and accessible. And the fact that there's almost 26,000 students at MJC and another 3,000 students at Columbia tells me we're doing a pretty good job of that. And as a trustee, I would continue to keep that goal in mind, keeping education affordable, accessible. Because as I said earlier, the key to a productive society is education. And it's not just a four-year college and getting a bachelor's degree. It's the ability to go to school and to learn about a trade or to get your degree. So my whole thing is about keeping educational affordable and accessible. And I think we do a good job of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is question number 5. And you already have touched on this again. So apparently whoever helped send the questions in is as exposed to the district as you folks are. State and local governments are facing significant revenue declines because of the pandemic. As trustee, how would you respond to a significant, somewhere in the range of 10 to 15% reduction in district revenues and state funding? And we'll start out with Mr. Richards again, please.
Well, first of all, I want everything on the table, and I want everybody to know every single dollar and where it is and how it's being spent. And I'd want to get the stakeholders to buy into how we're spending that. But as I mentioned earlier, I have an ability in fundraising, and I think this is fertile ground for the district. And I think it's something that trustees at a lot of places get involved with. And I would be willing to actively work with the development officer, the chancellor, department heads, faculty, et cetera, to help them raise money. And I think there's a lot of money in the private sector, especially with this COVID situation. There's a lot of grants and a lot of stuff available. And I have experience to help get that. So I think that would be a way, rather than just cutting the budget, I think that might be a way to grow the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers?
With the many years of experience in education, budget cuts are not something that I haven't seen before. Although this particular situation, I believe, is a little bit different, and there may need to be some cuts in certain areas, but there's also may need to be a much more proactive action by the Board of Trustees, by the Chancellor, to negotiate with the state government and the federal government to address this issue in a way that we all are in it together. I think not reaching out and trying to build those bridges and relationships would be a mistake. It may not solve everything, but it's certainly a place that we definitely need to make a point. Our kids need to come first. Our students need to come first of all ages, and we need to be able to do that. It would be difficult to cut, but we've always had to do that. And it just, again, you would have to look at all the factors and look at the places where you might need to do that and keep that as far away from the programs that impact the students as possible and work together with a short-term plan to get through it.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett?
Well, I mean, let's be real here. The biggest challenge facing state and local governments right now is their defined benefit plans, their retirement plans. That's one of the things that I focused on right away when I came on the Board of Trustees, with my background being on the county retirement board for many years. You know, we went from contribution rates as a percentage of payroll from 8 to 10%. The state put us on a path to 20% of payroll. They funded us a little bit, dropped that down a little bit, but those rates are going to go back up. So that really is both for us and every other government out there. That's their biggest challenge. And any retiree health or OPEB liabilities that they have. Well, that was the other focus I had. You know, we've set money aside. We have a general fund reserve of approximately $11 million. We have money set aside for retirement increases. So the board, as Mr. Rogers has pointed out, yes, we are proactive. We've done these things, and we've engaged our constituency groups on the Fiscal Advisory Council, which we established. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rubio?
So, I mean, obviously, you know, budgets are something that a lot of different organizations are going to be having to face over the next couple of years. So definitely working with the chancellor, working with other board members, and you know, as we've been talking about, is communicating, talking to all the stakeholders and seeing how it is that we can continue to accomplish our mission of helping students achieve their goals. Obviously, the circumstances are going to be different with each budget item that we look at, but it is something that we have to come together and again take a look at what our mission is and how it is that we can accomplish that while staying within the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Biggs?
Thank you. As I said, we saw the writing on the wall even before COVID hit, and we instituted a hiring freeze. And we can also, as I said previously, save a lot of money by transferring some of our activities to Zoom instead of doing the travel that we used to do for professional development, et cetera. We've also done a lot in streamlining our administrative structure. We have taken some very high expensive positions and moved them from executive vice chancellor or vice chancellor to director. So we've saved a lot of the overhead there. And then we've all touched on the importance of relationships. I think it's very important that when we look for efficiencies, that we bring in the people who are involved in every area, because they know their areas best, and say, how do we save money? What can we do? Because if that's the kind of thing, we can work together and we can become leaner and more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Byrd?
In anticipation of potentially some dark financial days, I definitely think we need to look at the silver lining possibly of this virtual reality we've lived in the past few months and see if we can find ways to be more efficient. I know Leslie just mentioned professional development, but maybe even further than that, instruction-wise. I know the needs of many of our students that are working and have kids. Some have reached out to me and said, can we have more online offerings going forward? In terms of, defining what those efficiencies might be, I do agree that relationships are so key, not only hearing from each individual about the day in and day outs of their job, but also if we're going to ask them to do things differently, we need them to trust that we have their best interest and the best interest of the students at heart. So in order to preserve jobs, we might have to redefine those. And also, I do definitely agree with grants for the wraparound services that our students so desperately need. If we need to make those cuts, not giving up on the wraparound services, but finding that money somewhere else.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next question will start with Mr. Rubio. And it is, how will you involve and inform students, faculty, the public, and your constituents in district policy and fiscal decision-making?
So, I think this touches back to, a previous question about transparency. How we involve students, faculty, constituents is basically going to be by, outreaching to them in their different, groups or organizations and building that, that relationship, that communication. And obviously, with our board meetings, letting them know what we are doing as board members with everything. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett?
Yes, I think relationships are very important to keep people informed and stay informed and be transparent at the same time. Our job is to make sure that everything that comes before us is done in the public. But that doesn't mean we can't reach out. I get phone calls and texts and emails all the time from people that are asking questions, both in our internal world and external world. Can you explain this? Can you define this? And yes, relationships are very important to getting that done, but be very transparent at the same time and get the information out and make sure that the public's work is done in the public view. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers?
I think that is, again, the communication pieces run through all of us in there. I've found in just talking with a lot of the folks as I'm trying to learn more about what they need in a trustee, that's a lot of it. Will the trustees talk to us? Will they communicate? The board meetings are obviously public. They're obviously videotaped. They're obviously out there available for that. That's a good thing, but there's more to it. I know when I went to Columbia College that you could go and have a cup of coffee with the trustees, and I'm pretty certain that has still been something that they were doing prior to COVID and different things like that. So there's other things like that we will need to continue. Maybe with the virtual reality, there's a way to be more open and more available to our community, but talking to them, listening to them, and going to sporting events when that comes back, being part of the community is a key piece to establishing who you are and showing them that, one, you're interested, and two, they matter, because they do.
Thank you. Mr. Richards.
Well, as we said earlier, transparency is a key, but I think I would really need to get guidance from the chancellor as to what activities are possible. I know that there's a current trustee that wanted to hold office hours, and they were told you weren't supposed to do that. So I think you have to make yourself accessible, subject to the rules. But I think Mr. Rogers had a really good idea when he talks about attending sporting events. I would expand that to culture events, and I would really want to make myself visible. And if possible, if a faculty member would allow it, I'd like to sit in on a classroom. But I think you have good intentions, but I think there's a system, and you need to make sure that you adhere to the system. So I'd really take my cue from the chancellor. You know, the chancellor might tell me that he wants me to go have a meeting to tell people about what's going on. But I think you have to make sure that's consistent with the policy, because it is different in different places. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Byrd.
So I agree that frequent and often and transparent communication with all stakeholders is absolutely vital. I definitely have learned through my advocacy in K-12 that a lot of policies have unintended barriers, and it would be great if, as trustees, we could be proactive in making sure we mitigate any potential barriers when we talk about, students who are learning English, demographics that are traditionally underserved according to the data, formerly incarcerated students living in poverty. Those are conversations we can have in a proactive manner to ensure that we don't set up any of those unintentional barriers that keep us from our agreed upon goal, which is increasing the completion rate for our students.
Thank you. Mrs. Beggs.
Hi. I want to make something clear that it was the previous regime that didn't like office hours. The current chancellor is fine with it, and I hold them out at Camp 4 off campus. A great way to invite a variety of stakeholders to come, and they're casual. If you haven't noticed, board meetings are formal and highly structured and intimidating. We're up high, people have to come up and they're timed, and then they leave. It's really great to have a casual setting where people can come and just chat. And so that's what I've done, and I will continue to do. And I'm not the only trustee that's done that. There was a history of that. Paul Newman did that for years. But also I spend hours on the phone with people. I used to go out to coffee. I've spent so much time with a variety of people who contact us, sometimes one-on-one. So we just have to spend a lot of time being open to everyone and listening carefully. And then I share that information with the chancellor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next question is the Student-Centered Funding Formula, SCFF, so the acronym or the initials, funds the district based upon enrollment and student success measurements. Should the district's funding focus on enrollment or student success? And please explain. And that'll be Mrs. Beggs.
They've changed how they calculate this several times, the percentages of each, and we don't have a choice. The state dictates it, and then people complain. I believe the state chancellor almost got a vote of no confidence over this. So it's again, it's complicated. It's a shifting goalpost, and we try to work the best we can. What's not clear to me is when people come and take a class and they're not trying to get a degree, but they're just going for enrichment. Are they included in people who are not getting in our stats for non-success? Because by their own terms, it might be a success. So I'm not happy with how this is calculated, but obviously we want our students who want to succeed. How's that? Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Byrd.
Well, I'm a big fan of innovation, and we have a lot of data for not just the years prior to this, but for decades that we've been underserving our community in terms of completion rates. And so to me, you know, when you continue to do the same thing and expect different results, that usually doesn't turn out very well, which is why I welcome the opportunity to create a financial incentive with completion, because I believe that hopefully that will inspire the innovation to give our students what they need to reach their final destiny. I have definite experience with that, and I do believe that we have great capacity on the campuses already between the staff and the faculty to make those adjustments happen. I know that anything new is often very uncomfortable, but the numbers tell us that we need to incentivize completion.
Thank you. Mr. Richards?
Well, I think both being rewarded for number of students and success are good measurements. But what I do know is, as a trustee, I probably don't have a lot of influence on how the state is going to determine that formula. But I am pleased to know that according to the chancellor, the current formula has benefited the district. So I support the current formula. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Rogers?
Well, one of the realities of education is that you don't normally get to determine how the funding comes in. So I do see the role of getting folks engaged and enrolled, and there should be some benefit for that. But there definitely does need to be a success, and kind of so I could see a balance there. But I do believe that there are some things that we would have to advocate as a board or as a community much more strongly. If we didn't like the funding and we wanted it to be different, we should do that. It does appear to be there are definitely some budget, some decisions with contracts between YFA and Yosemite Community College District where there are some of the raises and things like that that are been balanced and tied to certain things. So maybe there already is some preactive work done by the current board to look forward to that. But I definitely would love to see more students enrolled and many more students successful. And I think that is going to be something we actually will be looking forward to with the changes, with COVID changes.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett?
Well, yes, I too agree that institutions and government agencies need to be incentivized to do better work, and graduation rates and certificate completions is a noble cause. But keep in mind, this formula was done with a bunch of intellectuals at the state chancellor's office, no consultation with community colleges as a whole. And it really has had, in my opinion, a detrimental effect on colleges like ours, given our demographics. I mean, we are an Hispanic serving institution. That's really the bulk of the students coming in, and it is really hurt our ability to be creative and really serve these students. The COVID-19 has put the funding formula on hold as far as the full implementation of it. They've done things where big institutions were double dipping. They recognized that and they had to put a stop to it. So I'm interested to see what the state chancellor does in the future to fix some of the inadequacies in this with respect to our students and our diverse population. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rubio?
So, I mean, I think one of the things that we've all, been talking about is how complicated, this formula is. And so I think one of the first things is trying to understand the formula so that we can then, use it to our benefit. Obviously, we want both, right? We want both, increase enrollment and increase success. So, so I think we can definitely work in trying to achieve both, because, like we've been talking about, we want to serve as many students in our community as possible, but we also want them to achieve their goals. And yes, there might be some, questions as to, students that maybe just take one class for enrichment or, for other things. So that's where, trying to understand the formula a little better would help. But, trying to, increase enrollment and increase graduation rates, I think is something that we can achieve. Thank you.
Thank you. This will be our final question before you're provided the opportunity for your closing comments. The question will start with Mrs. Bird. Many areas served by the district struggle to attract and retain employers that require workers with job-ready skills, including the ability to read, understand, and execute written instructions, and an understanding of math concepts, including basic geometry and algebra. The lack of timely job-specific training is also a problem. What role can and should the district play to help address job development, training, and job-ready skills preparation? And that's Mrs. Bird,
Great.
please.
Yes, I definitely agree that our region would benefit from more qualified candidates in terms of incentivizing jobs to move here. I actually have great insight into why some students do fall short of the expectations of employers. Having worked in K-12, I know high schools are incentivized by graduation rates and diplomas regardless of literacy. And so I believe that as a community college, we shouldn't work in a silo. We should definitely reach out, and it's in our vested interest to work with local school districts to make sure that students are graduating with the literacy and numeracy for not only academic success, but for full employment. And if they're not, we should create classes and bridges to where when they leave our campus, whether it be a certificate or a transfer degree, that they have the skills employers are looking for so we can attract businesses.
Thank you. Mrs. Beggs?
Again, this is complicated. There's a lot of pressure right now to get students through. And I'm hearing rumblings of pressure to pass people who don't have the skills that they need in order to make our stats look better. And so I'm very concerned that we maintain academic standards while at the same time we do everything we can with all of the support programs that we have to help our students succeed. But the bottom line is that we have to make sure that our diplomas mean something, that they mean that our students have a certain level of math skill and a certain level of writing and reading skill, or we're not serving our students and we're not serving our community. And we'll have businesses come back to us and say, we can't employ your students. So I think it's incumbent upon the board to make sure that we strike that balance between helping our students get through, but not pressuring teachers to the point of doing what the high schools in some cases have done with sort of a social promotion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rubio.
So I definitely think that, we as a community college, because a lot of, of the students do feed from the local high schools, is we need to, communicate and work with the high schools to see what they can do and how we as a community college can help them, make sure that the students are, achieving the goals they need to in order to be able to be successful when they matriculate in our community college system. This actually, I think it's something that, has to begin from elementary school, as, somebody was mentioning, they're just, advanced. And so we need to not only, think of ourselves as, a community college system, but we need to, think of ourselves as a continuation of the educational system in our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett?
Well, I couldn't agree more. Part of our goal as a community college is to service employers in our region, in our district, and provide those opportunities for students to go out and join the workforce. And maybe their goal is to get a good job and re-enter higher education at a later point to move up the ladder. We've done that as an institution. We have college and career access pathways or CCAP agreements with a number of our K-12 high school districts. So that's something we're already doing. We've established dual enrollment so students can enroll and take classes while they're still in high school to prepare themselves for community college when they get out. And a lot of them have already met the obligation and goals to almost get a degree upon graduating from high school. So we've done these things. One of the things I ran on, and the thing that our chancellor is working with, is our technology centers over in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley. We've got a train coming down in the valley going all the way to Merced. Wouldn't it be great if we can establish those partnerships, which he's working on, and people can live here and commute to those high-paying jobs? So we're doing these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers?
Well, I'm one of those teachers that believes anybody can succeed, but that doesn't mean that anybody can do it just without help. With our students and getting them trained out there, a lot of times it's just simply believing in them and giving them the skills and the support to do that. That also involves talking to more detail to the employers. In the K-12 system, there's often this kind of concept of why do the kids, when they come to me as seniors or juniors, why are they not able to already write? Why are they struggling? Well, there's a vertical integration piece within the K-12 that also should be extended to the community college. We need to cross that bridge, and the K-12 initiative and goals of the district right now is a good start, but that is going to be one of those places where the better we build those relationships, the more we listen to the businesses that are out there, the more likely we're going to be able to provide students the experience they need along with the support for wherever they come. When students come into school, they come as they are, and we need to meet them there and take them where they want to be.
Thank you. Mr. Richards?
Well, as the former athletic director at California State University, Stanislaus, and someone who moved here from the East Coast, I spent a lot of time getting to know the community and the businesses and trying to understand what it is they need. I also have the advantage that my wife is the mayor of Turlock, Amy Bublak, and I've watched her work with the university and the business community to make sure that the university is turning out students that are employable and would do well in the community. And I think that as a trustee with the district, I would really be interested in helping the chancellor and others and faculty really make sure that the curriculum and the things that they're doing are preparing people to be better students and better citizens. And I would look forward to doing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we start closing comments, I want to thank those who I'm sure will be in the viewing public who were kind enough to send questions in as recommendations for this evening. Without the public involvement in those questions, it would have made this a much more difficult forum to provide. I'd also like to recognize the sacrifice that each of the candidates has made to be with us this evening and to express our appreciation to each of the candidates for being here and being willing to participate in the forum. With that, we will end with closing remarks. That's 1 minute. And we will start with Mr. Richards.
Well, I want to thank the League of Women Voters and George, you've done a terrific job moderating this. And Ryan, you've made us understand technology, and I think I've certainly come a long way. I'm running to be trustee because I've got 30 years of experience in higher education, doing everything that one could do. I'm retired, I have time on my hands, And I'm really impressed with what the district does to make our students better citizens. And I really look forward to, if I'm elected, working to make sure that the district continues to offer affordable and accessible education to the people of our valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers.
So for me, my path to run for this office is quite personal. I'm a product of Yosemite Community College District. And when I really think about it, I've been able to be successful as a teacher and in graduate school and have multiple credentials and have multiple experiences because of the foundation that I gained at MJC and Columbia College. And in living in this community and teaching here for 28 years, I really feel like I owe the place I started a little bit of gratitude and a little bit of effort and a little bit of time. So my goal is to help really reach that. And I love the fact that I'm able to talk with my students, even as juniors, and say, you know, you can go to MJC. The first 2 years are paid for. You can go there, you can explore, you can learn, you can start there. We have dual enrollment students. I have kids in my class this week that are dual enrolled and doing both things. And there's some great things that we can do. And I really feel like I would like to have opportunity to continue to support my students that I have now as they go on to college and achieve their goals and seek the career of their choice.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett.
Well, thank you. And again, thank you to the League of Women Voters and Civic Engagement Project for this opportunity this evening, and thank all the other candidates for being here as well. I'm running for re-election because of all the great things that we're doing and have done, and I want to keep up that momentum. I'm proud of the relationship I have with the faculty and the classified professionals and everybody else within our district. You know, we were chosen to have a respiratory care baccalaureate program. That is a huge honor for this district. You know, we went through a very lengthy accreditation process through the support of the board and all of our faculty and classified professionals and everybody else. We hired a great chancellor. That was a lengthy process. This board is cohesive. We're working together, and there are great things that we're going to accomplish. And I know how important a community college can be because I'm a product of MJC. And I had a great career in this community because of the faculty and everybody else at MJC. They put out a great product, and I'm here representing what a great product can be. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Mr. Rubio.
Again, thank you for inviting me to this forum. So as a physician practicing in Modesto, I see firsthand the adverse impact that physician shortages have on the health of Central Valley residents. Furthermore, it is hard to recruit new graduates to the Central Valley. However, studies have shown that community college students that go on and apply to medical school are more likely to want to go into primary care and to want to return to the communities they grew up in. As a board member, I want to ensure that our community colleges are ready for students to go into these professions to help alleviate these shortages. I want to help shape the community college system students will enter so that they are successful and can pursue their career by establishing clear pathways from enrollment to graduation or transfer. The road ahead for community college students is long and difficult, and if elected, I will ensure they have the resources and support they need to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Beggs.
Like Trustee Garrett, I am proud of the good work our board has done, from protecting free speech to streamlining administration to expanding academic and training programs for our students. My institutional knowledge as a former MJC instructor, my willingness to ask tough questions, and my refusal to be a rubber stamp have made me a highly effective member of the board. My peers selected me as vice chair and chair to help guide the district through a difficult time. I work regularly with faculty, staff, students, and community members. And because I listen, remain fair, and can disagree amicably, our dedicated staff recently voted to endorse me. If reelected, I'll work hard, build on the achievements on my first term, and keep prioritizing academics and job skills, fiscal stability, free speech, and civil discourse. I will also continue to work on improving the working conditions of our part-time instructors. I want our district to keep its promise of welcoming all and serving all, meeting the needs of our students as unique individuals, and doing everything possible to help them achieve their academic and career goals. Thank you for listening. I respectfully ask for your vote.
Thank you. Mrs. Byrd.
I believe that the inequities that COVID shined a really bright light on over the past few months are the motivation for my candidacy. I have a proven track record of not just educating, but also empowering some of the key demographics that data show us we have a real opportunity to improve the lives of not just for those individuals, but our community as a whole. I do not believe that the data that represents Modesto Junior College or even our K-12 system is evidence of a low quality of student, but rather an opportunity for innovation and visionary leadership, which is exactly what I would bring to the table. A vote for me is a vote to defy the demographics that we have in this town and to break away from the bigotry of low expectations that has held our region from reaching its full potential.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you to everyone who has been so good to give us their time this evening. Remember that democracy is not a spectator sport. Please, please make sure you're registered and vote. Thank you and good evening.